about the events of Good Friday, just briefly together. And I might need a little bit of help from some of the kids and young people as well, if that's possible. And if they don't help, the rest of you will be helping. So, so great. Well, it's Good Friday, and I wonder why we call it Good Friday. Now, if you were here last Sunday, we thought a little bit about that in the Bible Bite, didn't we? Why is it called Good Friday? Because on Good Friday, we remember that Jesus died. So it seems a little bit unusual, doesn't it, to think of it as a good day, that somebody died. That doesn't seem like a good day. Well, I've got a few pictures for you on the screen, one at a time. Let's have the first one. And as you have a look at these pictures, what do you see? This requires you to feedback. What do you see when you look at that? Sandra says animals. Yeah, at the back? Anything else? Anybody see anything else apart from animals? Tree, yeah. A lion, yeah. So we've got, I don't know, maybe a lion on the right, what looks like a gorilla on the left. But there's also a tree, isn't there? So when you look for longer, you start to see more. Let's have the next one. What do we see? Butterfly. An apple, yeah, exactly. The next one. This one's a bit more difficult. What do we see in that one? Scout says a bird, yeah. What was that, Dot? A lion. So we've got a bird, a lion. Can everyone see both of those? Yeah. Next one. This one's a bit harder, I think. What can we see in those? Both images are actually the same on either side, but you can see four. Oh, okay, yeah. You're confusing me, Sylvia. Yeah, so Jude, what can you see? Can you see both the faces? Yeah. Yeah, excellent. So we've got a man looking one way, haven't we? And then the other side of the picture, you've got a lady looking to the left. And then I think the last one. Now, this is the hardest one of all. What do you see in this picture? A cat. But is the cat coming up the stairs towards you or down the stairs towards you? Let's have a show. Who thinks down the stairs? Let's have a hand up. And who thinks up the stairs? It's almost 50-50, isn't that interesting? The longer you look at that picture, you can't really work it out, can you? Because if you think up the stairs, but then you think, hang on a second. What does that say? So what do you think it's down or up? Down. Okay, I'll take your word for it, Sue. Going down the stairs. Very good. Okay. Well, in those pictures, we saw or we see different things, don't we? When we look at the cross of Jesus, which is what we're thinking about today on Good Friday, in the Bible, it tells us that people see different things. So the Apostle Paul, writing to a church in a place called Corinth, he said this on the screen: "For the message of the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing, but to those of us who are being saved, it's the power of God." So in other words, some people look at the cross and they see one thing. They see it as something which is foolish. It's simply a man dying. It might just be a symbol of religion. But then other people look at the cross and see it as the power of God to save. And the question for us this morning as we think about this is, what do we see when we look at the cross? Do we see it as the power of God to save, or as Paul says, simply as a man dying and perishing? Well, we're going to think about four things that we see at the cross that help us to see who Jesus is and what he was accomplishing. But before we do that, we're just going to do a quick kind of story from the trial to the cross. If you were here on Sunday, we were thinking about Jesus on trial before Pilate. How do we get from there to the cross? Well, Jesus has this fixed trial. It's not by any means a fair trial. And then Jesus has to carry his cross. Now, Jesus has not been treated well. He's already been beaten by this point. So the chances of him actually being able to carry this big wooden heavy cross were very unlikely. And so we read in verse 21 of what Doug read that a man called Simon steps in there he is in cartoon form, to help Jesus carry the cross. So he helps him carry it. And then verse 22, Jesus is led to this place which is called Golgotha, which doesn't really sound like a very nice place, does it? It means the place of the skull. And then verse 23, we see Jesus being offered wine. But this is wine, we're told, mixed with myrrh. It's basically drugged wine. And so Jesus refuses to take that. And then we see, as Jesus is killed, crucified on the cross, we see the guards and those standing around basically gambling for his clothes, drawing lots over who will get what. And all of these events as they unfold were prophesied, of course, in the Old Testament a long, long time before. The prophets spoke about all of these events as they unfolded. And so we're reminded that, as we thought about on Sunday, that this event of Jesus dying on the cross was not just the plans of evil men, but of course the plan, the sovereign plan of God, God's saving plan. Even what the enemy means for evil, God turns for good and for the saving of many. We're then told a few more pieces of information. Now I need a helper to hold up a sign for me. Who will help me? Who's going to help? Yeah, great. So can you hold that sign up so everybody can see it? If you turn that around. Thanks, Miriam. Excellent. So, verse 26 tells us that Jesus was crucified, and there was a great big sign put on the cross above him that read, King of the Jews. Now, of course, that wasn't a complimentary term in terms of the way it was meant. It was in the spirit of mockery, and they were mocking Jesus. They didn't really believe him to be a true king. And then we read that some people started shouting some things out. So I don't know who has verse number 1 for us. Jude, could you read that for us?
Come down from the cross and save yourself.
Excellent. Thanks, Jude. And then verse number 2.
He saved others, they said, but he can't save himself.
Thanks, Jessica. Brilliant. So we had these were kind of, Jesus is there on the cross and people start hurling these things at him. Abuse, really. I think people were looking for a kind of Superman display of power. Here's Jesus on the cross. If he is the real king, people were thinking, well, surely he'll come down off the cross and show to everybody that he really is the king. But of course, Jesus was there to accomplish a particular mission. And Jesus would save many, not by coming down off the cross, but by staying on the cross and dying in my place and in your place, by taking our place, by bearing our sin. And so we see more of that in verse 32 on the screen there. Let this Messiah, this King of Israel, come down now from the cross that we might see and believe. But of course, it was the other way round. It wasn't about seeing and believing, but believing and then seeing. As we believe that Jesus is who he said he was and is, when we believe that Jesus was on the cross in my place, in yours, it's then that we start to truly see who he is, his true identity as the true King and the true Saviour. Thanks, Miriam. That's great. You can go and sit down. Okay, 4 quick things then that we see at the cross in the reading that Doug read for us that help us to truly see who Jesus is. So, another helper needed. Who's going to help me? Jessica, thank you. And if you could take that out. Hold it up. What is it? Yeah, what colour is it? Black. What do we think that might represent there? We've got a black piece of paper, piece of card. What might the black represent, do you think? Death, maybe, yeah? Darkness. Thank you very much. Thanks, Jessica. You can sit down. Darkness. Indeed, it does represent darkness. Who has the third reading?
My God, why have you left me alone?
Thank you very much. My God, why have you left me alone? Or sometimes we read, forsaken me, means the same thing. Jesus had been left alone at the cross, and it was dark. The cross, Jesus was put on the cross at 9 in the morning, And by midday, it had gone dark. Now, that's not normal, is it? It's not normally dark at 12 at lunchtime. But we read that it went dark by midday. At noon, darkness came over the whole land until 3 in the afternoon. And that reminds us that this is not a natural event. This is not a normal event. Something very unusual, very particular, very specific is happening. Darkness comes over all the land. And as Jesus cries out, my God, why have you left me alone? And as the darkness falls, we're reminded that Jesus took the punishment that belonged to us, that God judged sin, and rightly so, because God is perfect and right and must judge all that is wrong. But instead of that falling on us, Jesus takes our place. And in that moment, he stands in our place, bearing our sin, enduring the darkness, that we might know life and light and rescue. Right, the second thing is a cry of victory. Now, I've got a few things in this bag that I might need some help with. The question is, what is finished? So that's the question, what is finished? And I need you to help me. So I've got a plate and some knives and forks. What's finished, do you think? What's finished, Jessica? What was that? A meal, yeah. So lunch or dinner, if you've got an empty plate, you've got your knife and fork, the chances are you've finished your meal, exactly. What about this one? I've got a pair of muddy shoes that are supposed to be running shoes and a homemade medal. What do you think might be finished? A race, exactly, yeah. So finish the race, exactly. What else have we got in here? Just two more. This one, a book. Now this is called Mr. Birthday. Somebody bought this for me for my birthday just a few weeks ago. You can borrow it and read it afterwards if you want to. Mr. Birthday, what do you think if we get to the end of the book, what's finished? Jude? Yeah, the book's finished, isn't it? The story is finished. If you get to the end, the story's done, the story's over. And this is a picture of me with a funny hat on. I don't know if you can see that. But, so what's finished, do you think, when you put on a funny hat? Yeah, at the back. School, yeah, pretty much, yeah. School or university or whatever you're studying. I don't walk around with that kind of hat on very often, I can assure you. But that spelt the end of some studying that has finished. Well, when Jesus died on the cross, who has reading 4? Jesus said,
It's finished.
well done. Yeah. Jesus says, it is finished. But what has finished? What had finished? Well, Jesus was in great pain, as you can imagine, when he was dying on the cross. It wasn't easy for him to say anything. It certainly wasn't easy for him to cry out with a loud voice, but that's what we're told he did. And when he did cry out with a loud voice, he said those words that Scout just read, it is finished. Now, that was not a cry of defeat. That was not Jesus saying, I'm finished, I'm done for. It was Jesus saying, it is finished. It was a cry of victory that Jesus had won. He was victorious. What is finished? Well, the rule of sin, the rule of death, God's anger against sin is finished. Power of Satan, finished, broken. Sin need have no more ultimate control or hold over us. It is finished. Death is dead, and Christ has won. It's finished. Right, that's two things, two more. Right, I need some help from Laura and maybe one other helper. Excellent, well done. Brilliant. So we have a very large curtain. And we read, didn't we, or Doug read for us in the passage, verse 38, that as Jesus died, the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. So we can tear the curtain in two. A bit like that. Thanks, guys. You can go and sit down. Thanks for your help. So the big, giant curtain which was in the temple, don't think curtain in your bedroom, which are often quite light and small and easy to move. This was a massive, great floor, ceiling-to-floor curtain that at that point when Jesus died was supernaturally torn in two to remind us that when Jesus died, the way to God was now open. Before, there was this big curtain preventing us from knowing God in a close way. But when Jesus died, that curtain was no longer there. It was gone. The way to God was open, and friendship with God could be restored. So that is great news, isn't it? Friendship with God can now be restored through what Jesus has done. Okay, final one. Let's have one more helper. Who would like to help me? Clementine, do you want to help? Right, do you want to take these out of the bag for us? And that one as well. Do you want to wear it? Do you want to put it on? What's that, do you think?
A nice helmet.
It's a helmet, you're right, it is a helmet. And what's that?
A sword.
A sword, thanks guys, that's right. Yeah, we've got a helmet and we've got a sword. That's the final thing that we read in the passage that Doug read for us. There was a centurion, a soldier, standing by the cross. And when he saw Jesus died, he said some very powerful words, didn't he? Who's got reading number 5 for us? Reading number 5.
Surely this man was the Son of God.
Brilliant. That's great. Thank you very much. Yeah, that's what the centurion said. So he was standing, he didn't quite look like this. He's probably a bit taller than Clementine, but he had a hat like that and a sword. And as he saw Jesus die, and he'd seen many, many crucifixions, so this was nothing new, but he knew that this was something special, that Jesus was somebody very significant. And he says, surely this man was the Son of God. Very good. I feel like my helpers might be a little bit distracting now. Why don't you go and sit with Laura, helpers? You can take that with you. Take that with you. You take it with you. Yeah, sit with Laura. Hop down. Well, on this Good Friday, as we gather together to remember what for us really is quite hard to picture and imagine, this sacrifice of Jesus, giving himself, that for any who should trust in him, that there truly is forgiveness and life and salvation. As we remember that we can't earn that, we can do nothing to get ourselves right with God. As we think about how that is free to us, we also think about how much it cost Jesus. Perhaps sometimes we focus on the freeness of the gift, and rightly so, but we don't want to forget that it wasn't free for Jesus. It cost him everything to make it possible for us to be restored in right friendship with God, as judgment fell on him, as sin was truly defeated, as that curtain was torn in two and the way was opened, and as the centurion said, and as we can see if we trust in him, that he really is the Son of God. He really is the rescuing one. And I know as we gather this morning that many of us here have come to believe that and trust in him. We'll be celebrating communion in just a moment as an act of remembrance and worship as we gather today. But perhaps if you've not yet trusted in Jesus, perhaps you're just starting to see who this man really is. Then Jesus calls us to admit our own sin, our own brokenness, to believe that he really is who he says he is, and then to commit to trusting in him and walking with him and following him. But as we think about those events, let me lead us in a short prayer before we sing together, and then, as I said, we're going to celebrate communion together. So let's pray.